and cowardly acts of an Atlanta-based rapper that decided to go over into a rival gang stronghold and shoot a music video in a place that he knew he should not have been. And in the subsequent days, we saw homicides and shootings, and ultimately the deaths of 2 children as a result of his cowardly actions. And you know who you are. And I tell you that this team will work relentlessly to hold you and the persons that you are affiliated with responsible for those actions.
So that was a press conference that was held last month by the Atlanta Police Department after a fatal shooting in Southwest Atlanta that ended up killing 2 13-year-olds and wounding an 11-year-old. Authorities alleged that that shooting stemmed from an escalating gang tension between Lil Baby's 4PF and another gang out of Atlanta called OMF, or Only My Family. And they said that that specific incident escalated after Lil Baby went to his ops hood in 2024 to shoot a music video. It's something that I covered extensively on my channel, and in fact the whole Lil Baby saga and 4PF saga is something that I've been covering on my channel throughout the years. I feel like we have this conversation at least once every 12 months, but it does seem like all of the speculation may be coming to a head, and that this conversation about a 4PF Rico may actually be coming to fruition. Now, that clip that we watched at the beginning, that was a press conference that was held after those 2 13-year-olds died. And while 4PF wasn't the person that did that shooting, you could clearly hear the police officer say that he intended on holding 4PF responsible because Lil Baby went to his ops hood to shoot a music video. So they kind of look at that as a catalyst for why all of this went down. And as y'all know, when kids start becoming victims of these type of crimes, the police tend to move pretty fast. And so after this happened, we did see the police move in and actually indict the Goodfellas gang.
Atlanta police now blame the deaths of 2 Atlanta teens last summer on a violent street gang in our community.
Just hours ago, APD announced they now have charged 7 people with the murders.
Atlanta police say these are the innocent faces of gang violence in Atlanta. 2 of them, 13-year-old boys Jacody Davis and Lamont Freeman, were killed. And 11-year-old Dontavius Davis was wounded last July in a shooting on Spark Street. APD says Freeman was killed on his 13th birthday. Investigators blame the deadly shooting on a local rapper. They said the attack was in retaliation for the rapper entering a rival gang's territory to film a music video. Authorities say a high-ranking member of the Goodfellas gang who was incarcerated orchestrated the attack using a smuggled cell phone. Following those instructions, the suspects opened fire at an apartment complex where the 3 young teens were gathered to celebrate Freeman's birthday. Police say they weren't the targets. Those arrested were identified as Keontae Sanders, Richard Hollis, Reginald Thomas, DeKeithion Mobley, Marcus Crawford, Tradon Crawford, and Allie Caldwell. The final 2 were arrested Tuesday.
All right, so all of this goes down. The police swoop in, they arrest and indict all of these guys that are involved in the Goodfellas gang. They make it a point to name drop Lil Baby and try to tie 4PF as a group to this entire thing going down. And so that brings us to where we are today, which is these guys have been in court, right? They've been battling these charges, and some interesting information has started to come out. So we've got this tweet right here from Infamous Sylvia, right? She's a journalist. She's been covering a lot of this stuff going on in Atlanta, like the YSL trial. Anyways, she's been present in the courtroom for this trial for the Goodfellas, and she sent out this tweet that said, "Investigator Viverito is on the stand." That's one of the investigators that was working this case. She said, "We are listening to wiretapped phone calls." All right, so she's saying that they had wiretaps in place for Goodfellas. I'm assuming if they had wiretaps on them, they probably have wiretaps on Lil Baby. But anyways, she continued. She said someone mentioned in one of those wiretap phone calls that Lil Baby had tickets on some people's heads. Tickets obviously being a bag or a price tag, right? Basically, allegedly in these wiretap phone calls, someone was saying that Lil Baby had put money in the streets to get some of these guys gone. And that is very, very interesting to say the least. Now, even though these guys are in in court. They're facing these charges. It seems like the sliding is still going on, right? Because on the 29th of March, this article right here came out that says man shot and killed in Southeast Atlanta, police say. And the article has a very few details, but it says at around 11:50 p.m. on Friday, officers were called to an address on Lakewood Avenue where they found a 27-year-old man with a gunshot wound. He was taken to Grady Memorial Hospital where he later died, right? That's all of the details that were provided. But another journalist coming out of Atlanta named George Chitty, y'all may have seen him. He did some Vlad TV interviews and things like that when the YSL trial was going down. And he kind of helped add some context to this news story. He sent this, I don't know if I'm going to call it a tweet or what, because it was sent on the Blue Sky platform, but he sent this out and it said, it appears that the murder victim is Keontae Davis, a defendant in a murder case involving 4PF gang members. He then said the medical examiner's office confirmed that it was Davis. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis began preparing a Rico case involving 4PF and an offshoot of the Goodfellas prison gang. The offshoot is OMF. Even as the YSL case was plotting through court, I sense that the death of Davis here will accelerate things. He continued, he said 4PF was the label that Lil Baby produced music through. It's also a violent street gang that has both victimized and been victimized in this gang war. Davis, which is the guy that just died on the 29th, was a co-defendant of Nathan Benford, also known as 4PF Nate, who was sentenced to 20 years for murdering a man named named Jaquavius Wilson. He said 4PF was the murder case involving 4PF gang members. He then said the medical examiner's office confirmed that it was Davis. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis began preparing a Rico case involving 4PF and an offshoot of the Goodfellas prison gang. The offshoot is OMF. Even as the YSL case was plotting through court, I sense that the death of Davis here will accelerate things. He continued, he said 4PF was the label that Lil Baby produced music through. It's also a violent street gang that has both victimized and been victimized in this gang war. Davis, which is the guy that just died on the 29th, was a co-defendant of Nathan Benford, also known as 4PF Nate, who was sentenced to 20 years for murdering a man named Jaquavius Wilson in 2023. The DOJ indicted 8 members of the Goodfellas gang a couple of weeks ago and have received an order to seal some of the documents in the case because the Goodfellas are expected to murder snitches. Similarly, the death of Davis may also be a reprisal for cooperating in the plea deal on the Wilson murder. Right? So y'all listen to what George is saying. He's saying that this guy that died, Davis, was a cooperating witness against 4PF Nate and that he believes that Davis was killed because of that. George continued, he said the pace of murder and retaliation is accelerating, which is why I would be unsurprised if Fannie Willis pulls the trigger on a Rico for the Goodfellas defendants and 4PF sooner than later. What isn't clear is whether Lil Baby himself will be wrapped up in it, never mind other marquee rappers. Now, in addition to these posts that he made over on Blue Sky, George also wrote this article right here about Young Scooter and quote unquote the next Rico coming out of Atlanta. Now, we're not going to focus on the Young Scooter part of this article in this video. Instead, I want to focus on what he says about this 4PF Rico because he does add a little bit more context. So he lays out that Davis was a co-defendant in the murder trial of Jaquavius Wilson. He was also a cooperating witness because he took a plea deal and part of his plea bargain was that he had to give some information. So he lays that out again and states that that may be the reason that he was killed. But at the end of this article, there is an interesting paragraph. Right here it says, Sean Hoover, who manages the Georgia Public Defenders Council's specialized specialized unit on gang cases, says his office is actively preparing for a racketeering indictment on 4PF and the OMF cases, and that he expects Lil Baby to be indicted with the others. So to clarify, this guy Sean Hoover is the person who manages the public defender's office, which is, you know, made for people who get in trouble but can't afford their own attorney. You know, when you get arrested and they say if you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. That normally comes through the public defender's office. George is saying that he spoke with this Sean Hoover guy, and Sean Hoover told him that his public defender's office is actively preparing to take on clients who are going to be hit with a racketeering indictment, and he specifically named 4PF. He also said that he believes Lil Baby will be indicted along with 4PF. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good for Lil Baby. When the public defender's office is gearing up to represent members of your gang because they anticipate that they won't have money for lawyers, and you got the police calling you out saying that they're gonna hold you responsible, and you got somebody like Fannie Willis who has been heavy on the gang indictments since she got in office, when you got somebody like her behind the scenes trying to make it all come together, I mean, it just don't look good for Lil Baby. Honestly, I would not be surprised if we see Lil Baby get indicted in the next, I don't know, 60 to 90 days, right? We've seen them already indict the Goodfellas or OMF. We know that normally these type of indictments are dual indictments. They're not just gonna go get one side, they're gonna get both sides. Think YSL and YFN, right? That's exactly what they did to Young Thug and YFN Lucci. You know,